beautiful people. Welcome to C2L. I'm Samide.
I'm Kalpa.
And this is Chennai to Lagos.
Yes.
Before you do anything, before we start this video, like, subscribe, click that notification bell. Yeah, so you can keep up with this. What are we doing?
We decided to do our story, but an updated version. And we felt this was necessary because the last time we did this, I think we were about 1,000.
A little over 1,000 subscribers.
Yes.
And we were not married.
And so many things have changed since then. And now our channel is like so much more bigger. There's so many new people joining and it's amazing to have you guys. But we've also seen like questions about us and our families and our story and how we came to be and stuff like that. So we decided to do an updated one, but this time try to keep it short and one video instead of two. But if you want to watch the long ones that we've done before, please check them out up here. So this is an updated version. Hope by the end of it you guys have a general idea of us and who we are.
Before this, and this, our story is incomplete without starting with this. Our story, I feel like the central part of our story begins with our university. We went to a school, university in Kenya called United States International University. I studied information system technology.
I studied applied computer technology.
And this was basically in the same building.
Yeah,
and the ironic thing is that we never met each other our whole time there. But our journey began in our third year of school.
Yes.
And what was happening is that every single year our university holds a pageant called Mr. and Miss. It's basically to kind of pick like a ambassador for the school, like a face of the school, and it exposes you to a lot of things. We both happened to register for this.
Yeah.
What was going on in your life that sent you there?
I just wanted to do something different. It was very boring, like my first 3 years in uni. I'm very much a book person, very like nerdy. So I wanted to try something out of my comfort zone. So I decided to register for the pageant. But at the time I was trying to build a women in tech club in the university. And I felt like this would give it a lot more exposure, would also, just give light on the club that I'm trying to build. So that's one of the reasons I joined it.
Wow, that's beautiful. And for me, I feel like I was going through a very interesting time, and I felt like I needed to get myself back. I'd lost so much confidence in things. So like, you know what? This is an opportunity to jump into it, focus on yourself, and also expose you. Because I have a lot of creative aspirations, and the idea was that, this would be a great way to showcase what I do. So we were in the same building, never met each other, but then this whole thing brought us together. Yeah. And our first interaction, we have never agreed on it, so I'll give you my own first interaction with her. We were put in a group with all the contestants. I saw her hobbies were coding and everything, and I was like, wow, what a beautiful human being all around. Like I hadn't been exposed to that. So I reached out to her, we texted, and we talked. Our first conversation was about making the world better. And that was our first conversation.
Big goals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so his story is that he saw me on the website that had all the candidates joining. But my story is I met him during the orientation of that pageant, which was like basically day 0 of that pageant. And we were sitting in a circle and sort of like, being given the 101s about it by the trainers. And so I look up, I had a book just like this one and a pen just like this one. And I was taking notes studiously, and I look up and I see this guy and I'm like, I look up again, I'm like, okay, he's cute, and then I kind of am like, Kalpa, focus, please, like, we're here for the pageant. And then I went back to my books, and that was my first ever sight of this creature called Tommy Day.
Dang. You look so beautiful, by the way. Do you know that?
Thank you.
You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
I think I've learned from experience that most of the time you're always right. So for all we know, that is how the story went. But anyway, we started the pageant together. And what would usually happen is that at the beginning, they put people in groups. And so you're paired with you're paired up, right? And you do challenges together and things together. So early on, we happened to be ironically paired up, and our friendship started at this point. For me, what used to fascinate me is that she would tell me, like, let's practice our walks, let's practice certain things, because we had to walk together and stuff. So there was a lot of chemistry we needed to build. And I was like, wow, okay. So we'd go after classes, go to the auditorium, find a place and do walks together. Then even there was a part when we had a dance, and, you know, she would call me, let's practice things. So I learned that the kind of character she had, like, she was a very, very studious person who, even if the what we were doing was very, very trivial, she wanted to make sure that she did it, and she gave her all. So I feel like that's when our bond started to evolve. And a very interesting point was during prejudging. What happened during prejudging?
So prejudging is this event that happens right before the finale of the pageant, and it's basically to see the talent, and, you know, it's a bunch of things, and then now it's like a filtering process for the people, the finalists. So during prejudging, something happened. I, of course, did my performance. Something happened, and the judges did not call out my name when it was time to call the finalists, and so it was just a mistake that happened, but I didn't realize that at the time. So I was like, oh well, we made it this far.
And to give you
happy
guys,
go lucky. I was like, let's go home.
to give you guys context, it's like we're all backstage, then they call people, and then you basically see like the finalists. And so at the end of it all, I am there, but I don't see her, and I started to flip because I knew that she was at the top of her game. So I run backstage and I'm livid. I'm like, what are they doing? And then I come to her, and you'd think that I was going to fight someone, right? And then she tells me that, no, don't worry, the judges know what they're doing, just, it's okay, it's fine, congratulations to everyone. And in that moment I was like, what kind of beautiful human is this? That even in a moment where you had every right to be angry, you decided to just be a beautiful human being. And I feel like that was one of the moments where deep down I was like, wow, I love the kind of person you are, you know? And yeah, that never left my mind. It's one of the most important parts. So anyway, long story short, it's a mistake. We're back in it. People are shuffled around, but they keep us together because our chemistry was popping. Like, we were just...
That's what we were told.
Yeah, that's what we were told.
We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
We were just doing our walks.
You know?
Yeah.
And that continued. And guess what happened?
What happened is, on the finale as well, we won together.
Yes.
So he became Mr. USIU and I became Miss USIU. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Like, you could literally be any winner from any pair. But then it so happened that we were paired together from the beginning, and this was the same pair that won. So it was just like, it just felt so meant to be.
Yeah.
But then the disclaimer here is that we didn't have anything at that time. Like, we were just
friends.
Genuine friends, genuine partners in crime.
Yeah.
And like, basically after that point of winning the pageant, for some reason, I can't remember the story, but I started to call him hubby, and he would call me wifey. And that's how we saved...
Speak it into existence.
That's how we actually saved our names on each other's phones, but it was just for fun. It was nothing too serious. And it was just like friendship, you know, that kind of thing. But then now, like, in fact, it was a realization I had after we got married. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how I used to save your name back then.
Yeah. So we win the title. We have a whole year of activities. We're just friends. We are exposed to so many different things. We got opportunities to model together. We got opportunities to do things for the university. So basically, we were always together every other day. And it became like a part of our routine, right? Like, I'd come in the morning and we'd probably have breakfast together or something like that. Like, we just became close like that. So what happens in Kenya is that there's an event called Mr. and Miss University Kenya. It basically brings all the Mr. and Misses from other universities, and you have like a different type of pageant. It's kind of like Champions League. I like saying that. Okay. But anyway, in the beginning I was actually skeptical. I didn't want to do it, but I was like, you know what, if the opportunity is here, just in line with the goal that I had before about exposure and, you know, kind of getting out of my comfort zone and putting myself out there, I decided to do it. And there was a moment where during our training, some of our other friends were asking me, why aren't we together? Like she was saying, like, why aren't you and Kalpa together? And the most interesting thing for me is that I didn't know how to answer that. Like, first of all, I didn't understand why they were asking it, but such a question. It's like, we're not together because we're not dating, but I didn't have an answer, right? And I started to realize that, wow, maybe there was a lot of things that I was not processing. And over a period of time, I started to realize that, wow, like, I actually genuinely had feelings for her. And I can't explain it. The way I describe it is, a lot of people, for them, like, it's boy meets girl, boy likes girl, and boom, there's that spark, and instantly it happens. But I feel like the spark had happened a long time ago, but it's like I was just catching up to it. It was just like a very slow build-up, and at that moment I realized that, holy crap, I'm in love with this woman. This is the woman that I would love to spend my life with, And I ended up winning Mr. University, and I asked her out, right? I asked her out, and what happened next?
Well, I don't think he technically asked me out.
Oops.
It was just that he was trying to confess his feelings for me. And that's basically what happened. Yeah. But then, like, later on, after he went home, he now texted me and he said, I know this happened, but I don't have proof of it. He said, does this mean you're my girlfriend now? Yeah. It was such a very cute, like, kid kind of thing to ask.
Yeah,
but I can see why it's important to ask that question, because you could have talked and, like, the other person might not have understood what you said, and then you think you're in a relationship and they don't think they are. So I was like, yes. And, like, so basically that was us on the 22nd of October 2016.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
and
it.
That date is always going to be etched into. It's even kind of more important than an anniversary date, but yeah. Like that dating date was like, the date. So that's when we officially became a couple. So we were friends for about a year, and then we became a couple in 2016, end of 2016.
And we ended up graduating together.
Yes, we graduated together.
Yeah,
that same year.
That same year. Yeah. And our life began together in some sense. We started to grow up. In 2017, special year, my grandfather passed away. And we had to go to Nigeria. And during that moment, all this time I had not told anyone about Kalpa. And the rationale was that, knowing that we are from different backgrounds, I wanted to make sure that when I tell the family, we were deep in the relationship. So it's like people know that, okay, this is not a joke, serious. It's serious, right? Yeah. So this coincided around the same time. So I told the family, and that happened. And basically, the whole fam knew. But the interesting thing is that before my grandfather passed away, he had a feeling that this would end up happening. He used to see us online and you just comment things, and he had told his family, he had told his siblings that this is what's happening. So in a strange sense, he knew it was going to happen, and he kind of set the pace. So it's such a powerful thing, because as he passed away, he had already made room and kind of like, softened every heart, if at all there was going to be any resistance, so my dad is like, yo, why doesn't she come with us? So it's a way of introducing her to the family.
He didn't say, yo, why didn't she come with us?
and basically she came, met the whole family, enjoyed some time in Nigeria.
Yeah, but what was like dad's and mom's reaction when you told them about us?
I feel like because dad had been speaking with his own dad about that, it's like somehow...
He wasn't shocked.
Yeah, he wasn't shocked, right? And with mom, I can't really remember, I can't really trace that moment, but I feel like because of all that was going on, there were so many things happening. We were not the most important thing at that point. Mm-hmm. It's like there's a funeral, okay, we're going, is this happening? Oh, wow, a whole year? Okay, you're serious? Fine. It's like everything happened in such a boom, 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 boom. Like there was no time to sit down, reflect, marinate. There was so much that had to happen. So boom, we're off, head to Nigeria. She comes, we come back. The family knows that we're a thing now.
Tom's reveal to his family was like a whole year later. But my reveal to my family, by family I mean my mom, was right at the beginning. like I think it was like maybe a month after we started, well, after we got official, I actually got on a call with her and I let her know. So a lot of people were asking, like, you know, how did I reveal this to my parents? How did I let them know about it? And that's literally all I did, is I just went up, called her, and I honestly told her, this is what's happening. And there was a bit of silence on the other side, and then she was like, the good thing is she had met Tom before, so it was not this unknown person that I'm talking about. She knew Tom, she knows his family. So she's like, she just asked me a couple of questions, like, are you very sure about this? You know, what made you like him? What are some things that you saw in him? Like, she was really asking me those questions. I was trying to tell her, you know, the history behind it, that it wasn't an impulsive decision that we made, that we've been friends, and I had seen him as a friend, and I enjoy his company, and I just generally like him. And I feel like this is the person I'm gonna be with for the rest of my life. And she was like, okay. So it was like she was loading the whole thing. And it's understandable, I'm her only child. So, you know, never before had I gone to her like this and just openly told her something like that. So it was a culture shock on so many levels. So it was like she was like processing it one step at a time. But my goal was to just let her know and have her in on what was happening. I didn't want a situation when this thing got more and more serious, and I felt like my parents were further away from the truth of what was happening in their child's life. So that's one of the reasons I told her, and I hoped that she would tell my dad. Like, that's the kind of approach I took. I'm like, okay, so tell dad, bye, cut the call. Yeah, so that was the big reveal. And then later on, like, you know, I was staying in the hostels for most part of my last year of university. So I was there for a long time by myself. And then after we graduated, there was particularly no reason for me to be in that hostel. It was even further away from other places, and I wasn't going to classes. It was, yeah. So I was also getting a little homesick with the whole hostel situation. So Tom's parents kindly invited me to stay with them, and it was kind of like nerve-wracking, because who goes to stay with their boyfriend's parents? Like, that's like, what? Especially in our cultures as well. Yeah. It's not something you do, you know. Staying with your per se boyfriend, but not necessarily just with him, his entire family. But yeah, they were just like, no, come over, you know, until you get a job, until you're settled, be with us. And I thought that would be like, oh, I'll just leave in like 2 months or 3 months.
3 years
later.
3 years later.
I was still staying with them.
But the beautiful thing about this is that I feel like that was such an important period, because you got to interact with the family.
Imagine staying with somebody for 3 years.
Yeah.
Staying with the family for 3 years. Like, you're bound to just fall in love with them. Like, just be like, oh my gosh, you guys are so cute. And like, you get into the rhythm of the family. Yeah. You understand the family's traditions. You enjoy moments with them. And then you stop feeling like an outsider. Like, literally, you know, I stopped feeling like the girlfriend. Yeah. I resonated more as being their child than his girlfriend. Like, I was more I am their daughter than I am Tom's girlfriend. Yeah. You know, that's kind of how it changed too.
Exactly. So at this point, basically, everyone knows we've started YouTube at that point, and around 2020, I just felt like, you know what, it's time. So I made an arrangement. You know, one of my friends, Betty, is getting married. You should check them out. They have a channel, The Rages, so we'll put that in the description as well. But yeah, she basically was preparing for her own wedding, so like, this is a great alibi to use to propose. So I set it all up, and I proposed, and I asked her to spend her life with me, and she said yes.
Check out that video.
Yeah, we put all the videos and everything there. But the thing that I realized later is that there's a difference between proposals in a Western sense and in a cultural sense. And I feel like that was a slight problem in my journey to now meet the family from India.
Yeah, and these are things you don't necessarily think about
Yeah.
in depth until you reach that stage, and then it kind of drains you because there's so many traditions from both sides.
Exactly.
So many cultural significant moments to consider. But then Tom basically bypassed all that
It's like-
and just went for the ring.
It kind of stirred things up, but at least it started the conversation. And I feel like from there, you were talking with Appa, I
Yeah.
started to
In
talk
fact, my
with...
parents
yeah.
didn't understand what happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, he asked me to marry him, and my dad is like, what does that mean? I'm like, there's a ring. He's like, so? like he was just like, I was telling him in the most Western sense.
Yeah.
And noted that as much as I'm Indian, I grew up outside India for most part of my life. So as much as, yes, I can speak my language and I value my culture, there's some things that still seep into your life, you know,
Yeah.
the Western aspects of it. So our engagement initially was like the movie kind, the one
Yeah.
where you like, you know, go on your knees and you ask. But when I told my dad, he was like, why was he on his knees? Why? What? He couldn't understand it. So that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a huge gap here.
Yeah.
I'm taking this so seriously, but they can't understand why, because they don't understand what happened. Yeah. So after the hype of the engagement that happened, reality sunk that actually families should have been more involved in this process.
Yeah.
But it was getting a little bit more complicated because now that this has happened, people had caught feelings. So we had to like move around it in a diplomatic way. My dad, he had a lot of questions, and of course, you know, you could understand why, because they were not with us. They were in India and we were here, so there's a lot of disconnect that was happening. So we were trying to think around what to do, and with a lot of prayer and like wisdom from people who were advising us at the time, we decided to have engagement part 2 with the whole family from around the world. So we had this one Zoom call, and why Zoom is because at that time there was the pandemic, so we couldn't travel. People couldn't travel to us either. So we just decided to have a Zoom call, put everybody on that call, and it was amazing. It was like the most amazing thing that's happened in my life is that thing, because I just didn't know it was ever possible to do this. And considering what a failure it looked like at some point, it was like, oh, how is the family going to come together?
And even just to add, like even around that time, it took a while, because it didn't, the movement from you've been asked questions, okay, so what is this,
it
to
took
getting
a while.
to getting
It took
to
many
this.
months.
It took months.
In fact,
yeah.
I think looking back, I was like really not faring that well, because it was a lot of emotions. Like it was stressful, you know. I was trying to manage the happy side of it, but also manage the questions in the right manner. I didn't want to seem defensive, but I was also sad because I had already told my mom earlier, like I told you guys years before, but then this is where we ended up being, that it was still questionable, it was a questionable thing, like what happened, so it was like, oh man, what could I have done right? Because as much as I was honest, the outcome was still this way. But not all was, nothing was lost.
Yeah.
Like, even as desperate as it looked at that time, God turned that into something so beautiful. Like, looking back at this video of like our families coming together is like the best thing that's ever happened. And it gave them a chance to actually interact with Tom, interact with his family, and vice versa as well. On my side, my cousins really spearheaded that, thanks to them. We also had invitations done for the wedding. So we actually presented the invitation during the Zoom call, both the Tamil one and the English one for everybody. And my dad was just like the superstar of that video, of that like Zoom call, because he was just so into it. He was like, what's your name? He was asking everybody, what's your name?
He was a chair.
Yeah,
basically.
he became the chair of that meeting. And
And
to be honest, I didn't anticipate that to happen, because my mom was really chilled. My dad was pretty chilled, but he was just, he's more of the guy who has a lot of questions. So convincing someone like that can seem daunting. But then, I don't know what miracle God did, but he came through, and after that particular call we had the go ahead, like the green flags for everything next. Yeah.
And the next stage was the wedding. Obviously, because we had the date set, we already knew where it was when it was going to be, where it was actually going to be. But the problem is that we knew that the family would not be able to come, and they encouraged us to just go on ahead. They gave us the green light and listen, just go ahead and do this thing. And we did. We had a wedding on the 15th of May.
Yeah, and
2021.
for you guys who were wondering why my parents were not there, if there was any issue, there wasn't any issue. The issue was just pandemic.
It was COVID.
But other than that, they were present in the wedding through the Zoom, because we had an online, part of the wedding. And they were there. They blessed the whole thing beforehand as well. Yeah. We spoke to them even on our way to the honeymoon. We were talking to them.
Yeah, we were talking to them.
Yeah, they were telling us, it froze at this part. We didn't see it there. We saw you here. They cried wherever they were. So they really shared in that moment with us in the best way that we could have done at that time.
Yeah, and the wedding was very small. It was just basically our line. In fact, the camera crew was more than that.
The camera crew, people helping us at the wedding were even more than the guests who came.
Yeah, but it was very beautiful. It was bigger than what we thought it would be, considering that the pandemic was happening and all. And I think all in all, it's been a beautiful journey, and we're just so happy for what's ahead. And the reason why we're doing this again is because one of the major purposes of this channel is to spread love, right? And our story really for us is like it just showcases what happens when you put love at the center of everything. A lot of these things that we think about become so trivial. So that's the purpose for C2L. That's the purpose for this thing, and we really feel like a renewed energy to create content. The truth is, we actually have other things we do in our lives, like
full-time things.
I do digital strategy work, the startup, and personally
I'm a project and product manager, everything remote.
Yeah, we're remote guys.
But also doing my MBA at the moment, so that takes up a chunk of my time and my energy. Yeah. But other than that, we really feel like we've been called to do something on YouTube as well. And we've been trying to do that for the past couple of years. Has it been years? Yes.
I think it's been,
Yeah. And we're happy to be on the journey, and with that renewed energy, like we just want to put out quality content. And we're not doing this to please anybody out there. We're not doing this primarily for views and stuff like that. It is an outcome of it, and we're happy to see that happen, but the goal for us to be doing this is for ourselves, and then to show other couples and even people who, are entering that stage of their lives, a more realistic approach to relationships, the good and the bad side of things, but also show our family around the world, a true version of ourselves on the best way that they could see us on camera. And for sure, our future generation as well, for them to see this and be like, those are my parents, and this is how they started their life. It's amazing, because not everybody gets to do that. So at the core, we're very intentional about things we do, and at times that can be a drawback, because you're trying to be a perfectionist. You're trying to find the exact reason to do a video, and you don't get that reason at times, but we go back to this being our mission, is to spread love.
So guys, with that said, I don't think there's anything else to do. We are on the road to 100K, so please like, subscribe, share, comment, and just keep it locked, because we have a lot of things we're going to be sharing, and we really want you guys to be a part of this journey. This is more than just Chennai to Lagos. This is the C2L family. So we are happy you guys are here with us watching, and we appreciate you. God bless. Take care, guys, and see you next week. Bye.